This is the LumberJack Tools BS250 10-inch hobbyist bandsaw. Aimed at the DIYer and hobbyist market, it's in their budget price range, and today we're going to be taking a look at it. Now, before we get into the video, full disclosure, LumberJack Tools did provide me with this bandsaw. However, I'm under no financial obligation to say positive things or to talk about, specific parts that I really like. So this will be an entirely honest review on what I think of it and whether it's worth the money. During this video, we're going to look at postage and arrival and condition on that arrival. We're going to look at what's included in the box and what you get with it. We're going to check out its technical specifications, ease of setup and use, and then we're going to run it through for some test cuts before I let you know if I think it's worth the money. Within 24 hours of being dispatched, the bandsaw had arrived via courier. Although pretty heavy to move, it arrived in good condition and had plenty of protective packaging inside to keep the bandsaw safe. In the box then you get the blade key, table insert and a bag of hardware and screws, 2 Allen keys in case you need to make any adjustments, the work table itself, a push stick and the rip fence. Oh, and of course the instructions manual. I actually found the manual to be really good for this bandsaw. Not only does it guide you through setup and making all the adjustments to bring yourself square to your workpiece and to the fence and to adjust the blade, etc., but it also has a page of troubleshooting for any common issues you may find, and has a parts page listing off all the details of all the fittings you need. And then on the back, it's actually got a diagram of where every single thing goes on the bandsaw, which is super handy for maintenance or if you need to change any pieces out in the future. The BS250 has a solid aluminium table, which is capable of tilting up to 45 degrees. The table size is 302 by 304 millimeters. It's got a throat capacity of 245 millimeters and a maximum cutting height of 115 millimeters at 90 degrees and 65 millimeters at 45 degrees. And it weighs in at a solid 24 kilos. It also has a dust port on the back so you can hook up a shop vac without any dramas. Setup of the bandsaw is relatively easy, and you do have the instruction manual to guide you as well. You do need to do a little bit of pre-work, so you need to flip the work table over and remove these thumb screws and take the track off, which will allow you to release the M6 bolts that are in place there. Then you can take that and just slide it seamlessly onto the work surface itself. This fit really well. Then just use the M6 bolt and a washer underneath with a nut to tighten the work table down. You may find you need to tilt the work table to 45 degrees to do one of the M6 bolts, but that's super easily done, and you can just do it by loosening the 2 knobs on the back of the bandsaw as shown here. The table insert pops into position in the machined out square for it. I found out to press gently to get this to fit in, but actually when it popped down, it fit really snugly and there was no wiggle room, which was super handy. At this point, I did notice a tiny bit of damage on the aluminium tabletop where the paint had scratched off, but as this is where one of the bolts was going to go, I wasn't particularly concerned. After I put these 2 bolts in, and then reattached the track underneath and tightened these up with the thumb screw, and with that, the tabletop was pretty much fitted. Fitting the rip fence is very straightforward. You simply hook one end over, place the other side down, and then secure it in place with a lever. Once secured, it's pretty solid and doesn't move around, and when lifted you can slide the fence freely. However, because it's not on a rack and pinion style fence or on a track of any kind, you will need to check that the fence is parallel to the blade and table every time you make adjustments. You will also need to buy a small engineer's square to do this because it's a smaller bandsaw. I tried to do it with my Dewalt speed square without much success. The rip fence can be placed on the left or on the right, which will come in super handy if you need to tilt the table to make any of your cuts. There's also a handy hole in the side of the bandsaw casing with a screw and a nut where you can then hang your push stick so it's available to reach for whenever you need it. The only downside to this is if you work outside like I do, the wind can tend to blow the push stick about, so it may get in your way. With that, the bandsaw was mostly set up, so I turned my attention to the internal components. Now, the doors threw me off for a minute until I realised that as long as you turn clockwise to loosen the door, as opposed to anti-clockwise like you expect, it works just fine and unscrewed without any further issue. Once unlocked and unscrewed, the door springs open gently and then swings freely to reveal the blade and wheel inside. The wheel turned smoothly and the blade seemed pretty well set up on arrival. However, on top of the bandsaw, there is a knob you can use to increase the blade tension, turning clockwise to increase the tension and anti-clockwise to loosen it. The blade guard can be raised and lowered by a knob located at the side of the bandsaw. It's recommended, obviously, that you have the blade guard set as low as possible when making your cuts, only a few millimeters above the piece you are working on. The bandsaw on and off button are co-located, which is great for safety and very prominent on the outside of the bandsaw. Turning the bandsaw on, it runs smoothly and the blade glides freely between its guides and didn't seem to vary or wobble too much. So with that, I think I was ready to make some test cuts. Just before we get into the test cuts though, I'd really appreciate if you could take a moment to stop and smash that like button and then share this video as well. That will help other woodworkers or aspiring woodworkers like yourselves and me to find this review and make their own informed opinions about whether or not this is worth adding to their repertoire of tools. Also, whilst you're here, if you could please subscribe if you haven't already, that would be absolutely fantastic. About 80% of my viewers aren't subscribed, but every subscription helps boost me in that YouTube algorithm and helps share my videos and content with other people. Thank you very much, and let's get on with some test cuts. Started off with a rip cut, and you can see me here lowering the blade guard for safety. Now, I know a rip cut is not normally what you would do on a bandsaw per se, and I would personally use a table saw, but it is capable of doing it, so I thought I'd check out how it did. The material glided really quite nicely against the fence, and there was no blade wandering throughout the cut either. And as you'll see in a second, this actually left me with quite a nice finished piece with a straight, smooth cut down the middle. Next, I checked the resawing capability of the bandsaw, which is one of the main tasks a bandsaw normally carries out. Now, as you can see on the clip here, which is head on, that blade is going in dead straight, and I was watching it from above and there was absolutely no wandering in the blade at all, which is impressive because this was a 4-inch tall piece of stock, which is nearly at the maximum cutting capacity that this bandsaw could handle. Now, obviously, if you wanted to book match your material or things like that, resawing is hugely important for that. And as you'll see in the results clip in a second, this actually cut really nicely, really straight, and with minimal saw marks you could easily clean up with a thicknesser, planer, sander or hand plane, depending how you see fit. The third cut I made was a simple sweeping curving cut through a piece of 1-inch stock. The blade slid really well through the wood actually, and it even didn't stick or judder when I got very, very close to this knot that you can see on screen now. So overall, pretty happy with its performance on this cut and have no real bad thoughts about it. Again, it left quite a clean edge, which we'll see in the next clip, and I was able to sandwich them back together quite nicely. So if you're looking to do inlays or stuff like that, this is okay for that too. I then tested its cut on the 45-degree tilt, and this is the first time I really noticed any blade wobble, to be honest. Nothing that couldn't probably be cleaned up with a hand plane afterwards or a good bit of sanding, but the blade did struggle to cut and stay straight on this. Quickly checked its cross-cutting capability, cutting off some dowels, and then I messed about and tried to cut out a bandsaw animal. This is a bandsaw duck. I was mainly doing it to test the maximum capacity this could cut out height-wise, which was 115mm. The duck was not very good, but the bandsaw did extremely well. Although my shop vac did a fairly good job, I did notice a lot of sawdust got inside the bandsaw, so just make sure after every sort of major use, you open the doors and give it a sweep out or a hoover out like I've done here. So, in summary, do I think that this bandsaw is worth it? Well, it's currently retailing at just under £200 on LumberJack's website, and I think for the money, yes. If you're a DIYer or hobbyist and you're looking for occasional use of a bandsaw that will suit most of your needs on small to medium projects, this could be an excellent starting point for you. However, if you're looking to upgrade to larger projects or looking for slightly more capacity and capability within the bandsaw, this model may not quite fit your needs. For example, missing that T-track, use cross-cut miters or to make complex jigs could be a bit of a setback for some people. But LumberJack does have a pro range with cast iron tabletops that would fit this feature, and I'll put some up on screen now so you can see them. So if you're a hobbyist, this is spot on and bang on for you. If you're looking for something slightly meatier, maybe check out some of their bigger range. But thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what you thought of this in the comments below, or if you have one of these, or what model you are using, and what's good and bad about it. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks very much.